And next, I'm human, I'm afraid of failing. Of course. But then what is failure? Look at these examples and then in your head tick the box if this was a success or a failure. We start with Lucy. Lucy launched 4 ventures that failed before she moved on to her 5th one. This one and the one that followed were enormously successful financially. Unfortunately, the 5th venture was wiped out by a natural disaster in which the entrepreneur lost everything. So was that a success or a failure? The second example, Jack, a serial entrepreneur, looks at a company he founded 15 years ago. It makes an 8% return for its shareholders, pays the bills, and is highly respectable in the industry. Jack quit the company 7 years ago, selling his shares to his managers because he knew he could never take it public. Was that a success or a failure? And then the last one. Mark meets the San Francisco venture capitalists to pitch his new idea. He is feeling confident. His previous venture sold after only 18 months, making over 4 times its original investment for its founders and stakeholders. The venture capitalists looks at the venture as a failure. Her argument, they sold too soon and could have made more money. Do you think that was a success or a failure? Considering these examples, perhaps you've seen that it's not so clear-cut what is a success and what is a failure. For example, a venture capitalist wants 10 times the money invested when a company is sold in order to regard it as a success. A supplier to the company just wants to get paid. Success and failure can look different for different people, and that might de-dramatize it. If we look at the success rates of startups, we see that a lot of them close with no debt. Then around 60% of them survive 2 years, around 40 survive 4 years, around 40 survive 8 years, around 30 close with a profit, and very few and with an initial public offering. That means going on the stock market. So success does not equal money. Success is something else. On average, the self-employed earn about the same as the employed. The distribution is, however, skewed by a few superstar entrepreneurs who earn a lot, meaning that most entrepreneurs earn below average. For those who earn below average, it's about 1/3 less than comparable employed people. Most people do not go into being an entrepreneur because of the money. It's also important to remember that failed venture does not equal failed individual. Entry is common, survival is less so. Many ventures enter the market in its infancy. As the market matures, only the fittest survive. The corporation was invented to separate the individual from the business. So that is why we have a corporation in the first place. And Scott Sandash, in 2006, he wrote The Origin of Failure, and he discovered that there was no talk of failure before the 1800s, and that implied that failure is a social construction, which might also be comforting when you consider failure. What failure is, though, is learning. You learn from your failures. Apple has survived a failed market launch almost every year since 1983, and failure sets ground for later success. And here we have Robert Rice, founder of R&R, again. Fear of failure is the number one reason people don't go ahead in starting a business. There is the fear that the business won't succeed and the fear that the ego will be damaged. At least in your head, you've got to separate the two fears. Ego should not be a concern. Every rejection is a learning experience.